Howdy friends! So, the Prince Harry and Meghan Markle docuseries has finally dropped its first 3 episodes, and so we are obviously going to talk about it. Now I know for a fact that this is going to be divisive, and that's fine. If you have an opinion on anything talked about here, I'm inviting everyone to engage in a respectful and intellectual discussion down below. I know emotions run high on these topics, but let's keep it civil as we talk about the top 10 secrets revealed in Meghan Markle and Prince Harry's documentary. Coming in at number 10, fits the mold. Alright, so I think most of us were expecting to hear about some of the ingrained biases that members of the royal family grow to have. In the first episode of the series, Prince Harry revealed that there is a temptation in royal family to marry someone who, quote, fits the mold. And I think most of us are aware of this kind of mentality for the royal family, and honestly, on a more laid-back scale, this is prevalent in most families in the world. There is an expectation to find a significant other who meets a standard that the rest of your family probably instilled in you. The only thing is that, for the royal family, breaking that mold is 1, very easy to do, and 2, comes with harsh backlash. Prince Harry said, quote, I think for many people in the family, especially the men, there can be a temptation or an urge to marry someone who would fit the mold rather than someone you are perhaps destined to be with. And in my opinion, while most of us would agree that there is absolutely nothing actually wrong with Meghan, she is successful, beautiful, respectful, and seems like an incredibly lovely person, most of that has been undercut by the color of her skin, her choice of profession, and the country she comes from. It's just the truth. Prince Harry added to finish this point that, quote, the difference between making decisions with your head or your heart, and my mum certainly made most of her decisions from her heart. I am my mother's son. And coming in at number 9, learning from the past. Talking about his parents, in episode 2 of the series, Harry revealed that both he and Meghan, who were both children of divorce, didn't want to make the same mistakes as their parents, which is something a lot of children of divorce and messy marriages can relate to. Harry said, quote, what's most important for the two of us is to make sure that we don't repeat the same mistakes that perhaps our parents made. I think most kids who are the product of divorced parents have a lot in common, no matter what your background is. Being pulled from one place to another, or maybe your parents are competitive, or you're in one place longer than you want to be in. You're in another place less than you want to be. There's all sorts of pieces to that. And he is definitely not wrong. As an example, my parents are split up, and I find it a bit harder to relate to people whose parents have stayed together. You also observe your parents, and over time you can understand and learn the ways they failed their marriages, and sometimes the ways they did some things right. The fear of following in those negative footsteps is a huge relatable factor that I think probably makes Harry and Meghan's relationship stronger than some others in the family who are afraid to lean into their feelings like that. Number 8, unconscious bias. Okay, we've been pretty heavy on this list so far, but it's important because this whole thing is basically love versus duty versus hundreds of years of both conscious and unconscious biases. And the Duke spoke on this quite a bit. He said, quote, in this family, sometimes you're part of the problem rather than part of the solution, and there is a huge level of unconscious bias. The thing with unconscious bias is that it's actually no one's fault, but once it's been pointed out or identified within yourself, you then need to make it right. Now, a lot of us who have already learned better or just knew better from the start will jump straight to a point of anger about the biases that are so prevalent in the royal family, but there is also a level of these people are incredibly sheltered and closed off. The royals are kind of in a world of their own. It's not really okay, and it's a little archaic, but it is the truth. Harry goes on to say, quote, it's education, it's awareness, and it's a constant work in progress for everyone, including me. He then went on to talk about his past controversy when he dressed up as a member of the World War II National Socialist German Workers' Party. Now you know who I'm talking about when I say that, right? Because YouTube won't actually let me say their usual name. Just want to make that clear. We know who we're talking about. Harry dressed up like this at a costume-themed party back in 2005, and he said it's, quote, one of the biggest mistakes of my life. He added that, quote, I felt so ashamed afterwards. And then he explained how he met with survivors and rabbis in order to educate himself on his wrongdoings. Now that's just an example of how the royal family can be out of touch with reality just a little bit. Number 7, spies in the backyard. During the second episode of the series, Meghan revealed that paparazzi actually paid her neighbors in Toronto to spy on her. Meghan revealed that when the news broke of her relationship with Harry back in 2016, her neighbors in Toronto were paid by members of the press to plant a camera in her backyard. She said, quote, it felt like all of the UK media descended upon Toronto. My house was just surrounded, just men sitting in their cars all the time, waiting for me to do anything. See, Meghan, being a celebrity already, has dealt with the press before, but the press surrounding the royal family, they're on a whole different level. And I'm sure the ridiculous controversy of the situation just brought it all to another level on top of that. She continued on saying, quote, "My neighbors texted me saying they're knocking on everyone's door, they're trying to find you. They had paid certain neighbors to put a live stream camera into my backyard. Suddenly, it was like everything about my life was getting so much more insular. All the curtains were pulled, all the blinds were pulled. It was scary." And that element of fear plays perfectly into this next point. Number 6. Protection? But why? A little bit later in the second episode, Prince Harry claimed that members of the royal family asked why Meghan should get special treatment and be protected when the two of them had issue with the actions of the British press, descending on her home, neighbors, and privacy. But not only that, the headlines being pumped out about the couple and Meghan specifically were not just vicious, but were also pretty damn racist. The couple referenced a Daily Mail newspaper headline from 2016 that said, and I quote here, "Harry's girl is almost, in brackets, straight out of Compton," which I could go on a 13-minute rant about that on its own. Harry said that when they brought their concerns to the family, quote, "The direction from the palace was don't say anything." He added, quote, "But what people need to understand is, as far as a lot of the family were concerned, everything that she was being put through, they had been put through as well. So, it was almost like a rite of passage." He said that some of the members of the royal family were like, quote, "My wife had to go through that, so why should your girlfriend be treated any differently? Why should you get special treatment? Why should she be protected?" And as Harry correctly responded to that, quote, "The difference here is the race element. Something pretty much all the other members of the royal family cannot relate to." Number 5. Formality. Stepping away from that issue for a moment, also in episode 2, the Duchess talked about her first meeting with Harry's brother, Prince William, and his wife, Kate. Meghan revealed that the formality that we see presented to the public every day by the royal family is not just an outward show, but it even carries over behind closed doors as well, which is another example of the reality of royal life. Speaking about her meeting with Kate, Meghan said, quote, "I met her for the first time, they came over for dinner, and I remember I was in ripped jeans and I was barefoot. I was a hugger, I've always been a hugger, but I didn't realize that this is really jarring for a lot of Brits." Now, I should say, I am actually British. I was born there and I came here at a young age. All of my family is British, but hugging is not jarring for us. Like, I want to be clear, British people like a hug as much as the next person. I love hugs. What I will admit here is that there is some kind of ingrained awkwardness, and especially when dealing with the formality of a royal. A hug is probably incredibly out of place for most of them. This segment continued on with footage of Kate and William walking alongside each other with Meghan's voice saying, quote, "I started to understand very quickly that the formality on the outside carried through on the inside." Now, I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but for someone on the outside, not accustomed to the royal life, putting on this display of royalty for the cameras and the people can probably be very exhausting. And then learning that for the rest of the family, it isn't really a display at all. That would probably be a bit disarming. Number 4. Actor. But going back to the issues that the family had with Meghan, still in episode 2, Harry explained that Meghan's career as an actress skewed the judgment of his family, meaning her choice of profession made most of his family believe that the relationship wouldn't last that long. He said, quote, "I remember my family first meeting her and being incredibly impressed. Some of them didn't quite know what to do with themselves, but then the Duke jokingly added, I think they were surprised, maybe surprised that a ginger could land such a beautiful, intelligent woman." Then he jumped back to the reality of the situation, saying, quote, "The fact that I was dating an American actress was probably what clouded their judgment more than anything else at the beginning. Oh, she's an actress, this won't last." Number 3. Rehearsed. Now this next part is something I just assumed happened, but right at the start of episode 3, Meghan spoke about the BBC engagement interview that the couple did, and she said it was a, quote, "orchestrated reality show." She explained how the interview itself was pretty much pre-planned. She said, quote, "It was rehearsed, we did the thing out with the press, then we went right inside, took the coat off, and did the interview. So it's all in that same moment." When she was asked if the couple were prepped on how the interview would play out, she continued, "Yeah, but also like, then there'll be a moment when they'll want to see the ring, so show the ring. We weren't allowed to tell our story because they didn't want it," she added. Which is the interesting part, honestly. I think a rehearsed interview could be expected at the very least. Like, if I married a royal, I would just know that that kind of thing comes with the territory. But to have to leave out the things you do want to talk about does feel wrong. That's where you can see the narrative control that was in place. Number 2. Tabloid Attack. Now, another side to that narrative control comes into play when we talk about negative press. Controlling what the family says is one thing, and that part is relatively understandable when dealing with what is essentially a business that thrives off public opinion. But that also comes with being able to control the news. And in the third episode, the Duchess claimed that salacious stories were planted in the press in the lead up to her wedding to Harry in 2018. And it's very true that during that time, every tabloid you saw had some wild claim about Meghan and Harry. She said that, quote, "We were playing whack-a-mole every day. Every day it was like, wait, another one popped up? Wait, stop, another story. Constant." In the episode, they showed headlines like, quote, "related to serial killer," along with references to a X and Meghan went on saying, quote, "They were going through the woodwork and pulling people out to create and plant the most salacious stories that they could." I think she is talking about the press themselves, but the planting of stories part is pretty clearly talking about a play from the palace itself. And in at number 1 is a secret list. To close out this list on a more cute note, I didn't want to be so negative the whole time. Harry and Meghan, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, had a little reminiscing about early on in their relationship during episode 1 of the series, and they talked about how Harry had this not so little, quote, extensive list of things that he would be looking for in a girlfriend, and I guess eventual wife. Meghan seemed to think that this was adorable, but I mean, she passed the test, so of course she would think that. In the episode, she jokingly and kind of adorably said how, quote, he had a list apparently of what he was looking for, an extensive list, with Harry jumping on to add, "I'm not showing you the list." It was kinda cute, I'm not gonna lie. But that's all the time I've got for today. I'm Adam Andrews with Where Are They Now? Connect with us down below, and I'll see y'all on the flippy flop. I'm out!